something's different. Oh, first of all, it's my camera because I got a new iPhone, and since I usually shoot these on my phone, quality might be slightly better, and I know it's usually mediocre, but now it's a little bit less mediocre, so you guys got that. And I'm not wearing a button up, I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt, and that's because we were talking some Star Wars spoilers today, guys. I'm very excited to go into this movie for you, but in case you didn't see in the title of this movie or hear me just now, this video is going to contain spoilers from Star Wars The Last Jedi. If you have not seen Star Wars The Last Jedi yet, do not watch this because it will completely ruin the movie for you, or maybe you're just not going to heed my warning at all and go on ahead and let me ruin the movie for you, and then blame me in the comment section, which is fine because you have the complete freedom to do so. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Just be cool. Don't watch if you haven't seen the movie. Go see the movie and then come back here and watch, or watch my spoiler-free review, which you can find on my channel as well. Assuming you guys have heard that, please go away if you haven't seen the movie yet. You got a little bit of a warning. 3, 2, 1. Alright, you're gone. So, guys, I really like Star Wars The Last Jedi. I've now seen it a second time. I didn't like it as much as the first time I saw it, and I think that's just because the first time you see a Star Wars movie, there's always kind of that magic that you really love about the twists and the turns that you didn't see coming. So when I saw it this time, I noticed, I'm like, yeah, the first half of the movie is a little bit slow, which is fine. The first 20 minutes where there's the humor, it was noticeable, but I still really enjoy the movie. I still stand by my A- or so rating. A B+, A-, depending on what day you ask me. It'll probably rotate between that rating. I know a lot of people will ask, like, oh, how much did it change? Not too much. It was just a few of the flaws were a little bit more noticeable this time. By the third time I see it, I'll probably be like, oh yeah, either the flaws were a lot more noticeable or the flaws were a lot less noticeable. So I'm still a little bit back and forth. But here's what else. Here are some of the things that I didn't like in the movie first of all, and then I'll go into the things that I loved about the movie, because I didn't talk about too much of the things that I loved in my spoiler-free review. First of all, just to clarify the things that I didn't like, the first 20 minutes, some people were like, now, what humor were you talking about? Because they thought the jokes hit. So so at the very beginning, when Poe was having the conversation with Hux being on the bridge, and Poe trying to kind of distract him, he's like, oh yeah, like, I'll hold for General Hux, and then Hux is like, this is Hux, and he's like, still holding, and then Hux is like, this is me, and then he's like, yep, just let me know when he's around. And I'm like, alright, that was kind of funny and everything. And then Poe says something like, oh yeah, it's about his mother or something. I'm like, that's you're making a your mom joke in a Star Wars movie? Come on, it feels kind of out of place, felt a little bit awkward. And then the very next scene when Leia turns and she's like, hey, 3PO, wipe that nervous look off your face. And he's like, oh my. I'm like, this feels like it's a little bit too much, a little bit too, like, kind of contained of a comedic, like, kind of tone here. I don't feel like that, because in The Force Awakens, the humor worked because it was very few and far between. When a joke hit, you're like, this is perfect, this was the perfect moment. We needed a humorous moment to hit during, like, when Poe was in the interrogation scene with Kylo Ren, and it was very intense and everything, and he kind of broke the, like, dramatic moment with a little bit of a joke, but then Kylo brought it back and showed that he's very dramatic and everything. That worked. When all the characters were joking around, it felt like a Marvel movie. It felt very out of place for a Star Wars movie. But again, I think that after about 20 minutes or so, that starts to fade out, and I think that the thing that really starts turning around is when we introduce Laura Dern's character, I forget, the Admiral, Vice Admiral, the one with the purple hair. When they introduce her and she's kind of like holding down the fort now and realizing that the Resistance is kind of coming to an end and is not in the healthy shape it could be, I think that was really when the movie started to turn around. And also when they introduced Kelly Marie Tran's character of Rose, I think is when it started to turn around as well, because she was somebody, you can see, she lost her sister in that battle where everybody was joking around, and she's somebody that's actually taking it as a hard loss, so I liked that. The one joke, though, that I think annoyed me more than the Poe making constant jokes or the kind of weird consistency of the jokes was the Luke thing, when we have been waiting for years. 2 years we've been waiting to see how the cliffhanger on Act 2 is resolved. What happens when Rey hands Luke that lightsaber when he reaches out and he gets it, and then he just throws it over his shoulder? I'm like, kind of weird. I mean, it would be one thing if he sees it and then he, like, throws it off in the distance and we're like, whoa, like, he must not be having that, and that was kind of funny. But when he literally does it in such a comedic move, like, he just doesn't care, I'm like, it's kind of like it's a shot in the back to the fans. I don't know. That's just how I felt. Because I'm not like a diehard Star Wars fan. I don't live and breathe Star Wars or anything like that. But as somebody who's really excited for this movie, I just felt like it was kind of like a thing that we were really expecting to be handled in such a cool and, like, professional, like, unexpected way. And it was handled unexpectedly for sure, but not in the best way that it could have been. With that aside, guys, though, again, I do think that Laura Dern's character and the introduction of Kelly Marie Tran's character turned the movie around. I really liked where the movie went after that. A lot of people have been critiquing the Finn and Rose storyline. I actually liked it quite a bit. I thought it was a fun little diversion from the main story, because a lot of times in these Star Wars movies you have, like, big stories that, like, most of the characters are participating in, and in this movie we've got a big story where, like, Leia and Poe and Vice Admiral Laura Dern were kind of making sure that the Resistance could carry on and that they had, like, a ship and a place to go and everything like that, but they didn't really, like, know how to go about getting the Resistance saved, so I liked seeing that Finn and Rose took kind of matters into their own hands and were like, we can do this, we can help out and everything, we have a purpose in the movie, and I liked seeing that they kind of went out and took action on their own, like, it felt like they were people in the Resistance who actually believed in the Resistance, although I do think it's really weird that Poe was gonna jump ship. I don't really love that, and I don't really love that Rose and Finn met that way. I think that's a little questionable. I heard there were a ton of deleted scenes from the movie, maybe there will be one or two that kind of patches that up and shows why Finn was gonna run away. So I don't feel confident about that, but I do like, again, that the two of them seem to believe in the Resistance enough to, like, kind of go off and do their own thing. Benicio del Toro's character, DJ, I don't know what purpose he served in the movie other than being, like, kind of funny in some scenes. I mean, ultimately, he does help the two of them escape from the casino planet, which I thought was interesting, but he's this guy who isn't even the codebreaker they go to look for, so I'm confused as to, like, why they included him if he's just gonna double-cross them later in the movie. Whatever, maybe that's just me. So I do think, though, that BB-8, in both the casino planet scene and the very end scene, has some hysterical humor. That is the humor that worked, was the BB-8 stuff, like when BB-8 just, like, shooting the coins off at the people and, like, making them all collapse to the ground and, like, tying them up and everything. I'm like, this is really, really funny. And I liked seeing when he was piloting the ship and stuff, and at the very end when he was piloting, like, the walkers, like, shooting at the First Order of people on the vessel, like, that was great. But I will say, the storyline that I probably liked the most, because I did enjoy the Rose and Finn storyline, unlike most people. That was a lot of the critics saying what they didn't like with the movie was that storyline. I did like that a lot, even though the themes are a bit too overt. And it comes back at the end, which I'll get to at the very end of this review, but I did like that storyline a lot. Other than that, other than what's going on with Finn and Rose, I liked that ultimately Poe does have a storyline after he gets past all the jokes, and that he's trying to prove himself. He's trying to say, like, yeah, he can be a leader. He isn't just, like, a guy who goes out and blows stuff up, even though he likes doing that. He's trying to be somebody that, like, can be trusted by Leia and be trusted by Laura Dern's character, who... It begins with an A. Admiral H is something about... Yeah, that's her character's name. It's something... I forget. Okay. But I did like Poe's storyline in that movie. That brings us, though, to the Rey and Luke storyline, aka the Rey and Kylo storyline, that ultimately made this movie amazing for me. I thought that was my favorite storyline in the entire thing, because when it's ultimately revealed that Rey's parents are nobodies, or just people that sold her off for drinking money and then just left her to kind of rot on Jakku, I liked seeing that heroes can come from nowhere. You don't have to be related to the greatest Force user in the galaxy like Luke was Darth Vader. You don't have to be somebody who's trained by some of the best Jedi Masters in the galaxy. You can just be somebody who ultimately finds her own path on her own, like Rey did for the first 20, 25 years of her life, however old she is when Force Awakens starts. And I really like seeing that. You can be somebody who kind of goes off and kind of finds Luke because she wants to be trained. She's somebody that's making her own powerful decisions and is standing for herself as an individual, and I like that. She isn't being influenced by prior generations or anything like that. She's being pulled in one way or another for whatever reasons. I'll get back to that at the very end of this review, but I loved that move for her character. When she ultimately goes down to that mirror, which kind of reminded me of the Mirror of Erised from Harry Potter, and she just sees herself in there, I'm like, yeah, this is good. It shows that you can make individual decisions and you aren't bound by other characters or what your family says about you or what your kind of legacy stands for. You can be your own person, you can make your own decisions, and I really love that. Speaking of which, I love the way they handled Luke's character in this movie. A lot of people on Twitter kind of having some backlash now, saying, like, they ruined my childhood hero, I can't believe this, I hate The Last Jedi, like, Rian Johnson needs to go, and I'm like, relax. Relax. Did you see The Force Awakens? In The Force Awakens, it's established Luke has left society for some weird reason. Ultimately, we find out that Ben Solo did something, turned against Luke, and destroyed the Jedi place where Luke was training him, took some apprentices away, killed the rest of them, and we're like, yeah, so Luke's obviously going to be in hiding. But we always assumed, like, yeah, there's probably more to that story than just, like, Luke's in hiding because of this. We understand now that what happens is Luke, in a moment of weakness, ignited his lightsaber and then realized it was a mistake, almost going to kill Ben Solo. Then, again, before he can ultimately unignite his lightsaber, he looks down, he sees that Ben Solo has caught him in this moment of weakness, and he sees, quote, a young boy who's frightened because his master has failed him. And I love that. It felt like the most human thing you could ever see, because if you meet one of your heroes or something like that, they probably aren't going to be this larger-than-life person who makes you feel like you're awesome. They're probably just going to be a normal person who has moments of weakness. That's why I really, again, loved the scene between Luke and Yoda, because it showed... When Yoda showed up, I lost my mind. I had my, like, jaw drop, and I, like, look around the theater, like, can't believe this is happening. I haven't had that since Han Solo died in The Force Awakens 2 years ago. I loved when Yoda showed up. It was just one of those, like, Star Wars fan in me, like, lost my mind type moments. But when Yoda showed up and had that conversation with Luke, I loved it because it felt like one of those things that just shows our apprentices are what they move past. The greatest teacher is failure. And I love that because, again, it's such a human truth, and it's such a thing that shows Star Wars isn't about, like, about space wizards with laser swords. It's about people, and it's about how people live, and it's about how people interact. And this ultimately, between Rey seeing that her parents are nobodies, between finding out that Luke failed Ben, who ultimately turned to the dark side, and between finding out that, like, yeah, Luke failed, and that's what wound up becoming his best teacher, and Rey might not have ultimately succumbed to everything that Luke taught her, but failure might become her best teacher, and same thing with Kylo. It's like, yeah, this is just about human lessons, and I loved that. I really loved that because it reminded me what I loved about Star Wars from the original trilogy. It felt like it was those moments that were just very deep and just things that I'll be talking about for years to come. But when we go to the Rey and Kylo storyline, I'm like, yup, this is going to be something that they focus on a lot in Episode 9, I think, because it was interesting. I liked that they had the kind of mind connection, although that, again, reminded me of Harry Potter. It was weird. The Mirror of Erised thing, and then the mind connection thing, like Harry and Voldemort had in the last few movies, reminded me of Harry Potter a lot. So I don't know if Rian Johnson was a Harry Potter fan, or if that was unintentionally. I'm pretty sure it was probably unintentional, but it was interesting. And when Rey thinks she can turn Kylo back, and then Kylo's like, nope, I'm bad, I'm going to take you to Snoke now, and then Kylo kills Snoke because Rey convinced him otherwise, I'm like, huh, He is a character that is multifaceted and multidimensional and everything like that, but he's ultimately just being swayed these different ways, and he hasn't really stood up for anything on his own yet, which is why I loved when he killed Supreme Leader. So he assumed the position of Supreme Leader, and he just throws Hux to the side and everything like that. Hux was almost going to kill Kylo, by the way. That's crazy, but we'll get back to that in 9 as well. But when Kylo kills Snoke, he's like, you know what? I've had Han Solo tell me what I'm going to do my entire life. I've had Luke Skywalker tell me what I'm going to do my entire life. I've had Supreme Leader Snoke tell me what I'm going to do my entire life. I'm going to do my own thing now, and I liked seeing that because now I feel like he's going to be entirely bad from now on. Although I'm not sure, because again, the point of this movie was like, can Kylo Ren be turned good or bad? He's being swayed in these different directions and everything. And then Leia and Luke say at the end, like, oh, he's beyond saving. And I'm like, is he though? Because the point of this movie was that he could be saved, but now he's doing his own thing, so maybe he is beyond saving. It's one of those things where I'm like, maybe 9 will give us a more definitive answer, because I'm a little bit wishy-washy on that after this, and I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be saved by the end of 9, or if he's just going to wind up being completely evil and be like a Vader who goes even like farther than Vader did and like ascends to the throne of Supreme Leader and makes some like really bad calls like that. So I'm not sure. I'm still confused, but I do like that he's doing his own thing. I like that he's not letting anybody tell him what to do anymore. And when he killed Snoke and Snoke's body just fell to the ground, that was great. Both theaters I saw this in applauded when that happened. Everybody lost their minds. That was crazy. I was not expecting that to happen either. I was expecting them to save Snoke's death for Episode 9, same way they saved the Emperor's death for Return of the Jedi, but that's, again, Rian Johnson showing, like, fans, you don't know what's going to happen. We're showing you what's going to happen. So just sit back, enjoy the ride, and don't think you know what's going to happen, because I didn't. I wasn't expecting that at all. And now we get to the end battle on Kree, which is kind of like the tie-up of the entire movie, and I thought that was amazing. I honestly wasn't sure, because we've had so many different kinds of like structures of Star Wars movies, and the structure of this movie, the reason why I said it kind of reminded me of Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith starts with starts with a space battle that kind of turns into a confrontation between some characters and everything like that. Last Jedi starts with a space battle, turns into a confrontation between some characters and everything. Ends with kind of a big battle in Revenge of the Jedi between Obi-Wan and Anakin. This ends with a big battle between the Resistance and the First Order, of course, a little bit different, but still structurally, like, kind of, it's bookended by big kind of like fights, and I appreciated that. So at the I was kind of weirded out by the very end that Rey wasn't really involved in the Battle of Kree, but I guess her climax was in the throne room with Snoke, so I understand that, but still, it was kind of, I'm like, I wish we had more Rey, because I love Rey. But anyway, when Finn and Rose are kind of like, you know, fighting back against the First Order and everything, I liked seeing those two. I did think it would have been a little bit emotionally impactful if Finn had died and Rose hadn't saved him, or if Rose had died after saving Finn, because I liked her line. It's like, yeah, we're not going to win by fighting what we hate, we're going to win by saving what we love, and I'm like, yeah, it might be a little bit cheesy if they kiss and everything, but it's true, I like it, it's true, it's another human value that I think was really well done in the movie, so, you know, props to the writer on that, I suppose. But again, I hope there's an extra deleted scene or something on the Blu-ray that really clears up why the two of them might have a romantic relationship later on. Whatever. So the two of them were good. Poe, I thought, was good because, again, he evolves from that weird humor at the beginning of the movie to somebody who has something to prove, to somebody who's really a leader by the end of this movie, and I like that a lot. When it turns out at the very end that him and Rey hadn't even met, I thought was hysterical as well. But I did appreciate the storyline most that Luke shows up again, and he's going to be the one that he always says, like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, walk through those doors and stare down an entire, like, fleet of First Order, like, ships and everything like that? And that's exactly what he does. Kind of. I love that he shows up and he has that reunion with Leia. I liked their dynamic so much. This movie really felt genuine. It really felt real. It really felt like what those characters would do, given the fact that one of their sons turned to the dark side after one of them accidentally almost killed that son, after, years of training, years of conflict, and it felt so organic, and it felt very real. And again, the word real is what I would use to describe this movie so much. When Luke is facing off against Kylo, though, that was another one of those fantastic moments. After all the blasters hit him and all the dust clears and Luke is still there, I'm like, this is amazing. And I didn't even think for a second that it was going to turn out to be, it was the Force ghost of Luke, or like the Force kind of apparition of Luke. I did note that the lightsaber was the same lightsaber that was like torn up before, but I'm like, hopefully they explained that in some way. And when they did, and when it was revealed that Kylo ultimately was just fighting an apparition of Luke, I thought that was so genius. And I thought it was so cool that Kylo not only made a fool of himself, but that Luke really came back and showed to everybody that, like, hope isn't dead, the Resistance can survive, and that, again, I am not the last Jedi. And I love seeing Rey lift those rocks and realizing that, like, yep, you can come from nowhere, you can achieve a lot of stuff, you can really be that person that kind of is that hope, but you aren't the last hope. There's always going to be new hope, there's always going to be, more inspiration as generations go on. I absolutely adored that. I was a little bit sad that Luke died at the end, but I did think it was the best way for him possibly to die. When he saw the two sons on Act 2, and I'm like, I'm gonna cry, man. And then his body dissolves and the sheet flies off, and I'm like, oh man. I didn't cry, but I was like, I'm so close. Because Luke was always a childhood hero to me, and like, I always loved A New Hope, and that image of the two sons and him being a hero who came from nowhere and being a hero who's now kind of accomplished everything he's needed to accomplish in his life. I bet he'll be back as a Force ghost, but I really liked seeing this arc of Luke in this movie. I liked seeing the way he interacted with Rey and the way he interacted with Kylo. I liked seeing just the dense plot, the dense characters, and seeing everything kind of just rise to an epic conclusion by the end of this movie. Again, there's stuff to like, there's stuff to not like. I know I've kind of gone on a little while in this review, but I really do think The Last Jedi is the most dense, the most unique Star Wars movie so far. Again, the first half is a little bit slow upon second viewing, but I guarantee that if you guys are Star Wars fans, you'll love this movie. If you're casual movie fans, you'll probably like this movie. I don't understand the backlash, and I'm interested to see how that plays out in the future, to see if more people are complaining about it as weeks go by, but I can't wait to see what happens in Episode 9 now. I am a little bit weirded out by Broom Kid, the kid who, like, uses the Force, gets his broom, starts sweeping up, and I understand he was supposed to be, like, the representation of, like, there's more Force users out there and everything like that, but I don't think we need to, like, see him, like, do that and everything. It was, like, we kind of understood that, and, like, that was a given, but, I don't know. I can definitely see, and this is going to be kind of weird, I can definitely see why Colin Trevorrow might have been brought in to direct Episode 9, because it definitely feels like it's going to be a movie of rebuilding, where Rey might have been training some Jedi for a few years now, where the Resistance has some new kind of order now, where Kylo Ren is now, like, a really fierce and kind of more grizzled, like, ruler of the First Order. So, yeah, it'll be weird. 2 years from now. It feels like 2 years has gone by like that when it comes to Force Awakens The Last Jedi, but there's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot more speculation going into Episode 9 than there was going into Episode 8. Episode 8 we kind of knew was going to be like Rey training, and the First Order was up to no good again, and it would kind of parallel Empire. I don't think there's going to be that much parallel when it comes to Episode 9, so again, I'm really curious to see everything. I'm really curious to hear all of your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below, and before I do not let me forget, I loved when Laura Dern sacrificed herself to go straight through that ship, and with the Star Destroyer and the blast and everything. That is going to be my screensaver on my laptop in the future, when that comes out. Anyway, that was the last thing that I loved with the movie. Again, I went on a little bit long, but again, I love this movie. It's something you guys, I'm sure, will love as well. Let me know all of your favorite scenes and all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. You guys can go over to mymoviethoughts.com, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter at John M. Hayeck. Be sure to like this video, comment on it, share it with some friends, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching.